Okay, let's unpack this. Because if you've been following the AI space,
Yeah.
for the last few years, you've probably developed a kind of muscle memory.
Oh, yeah, for
You
sure.
open a tab, you see that blinking cursor, you type something in, and, well, the bot types back. It's a chat. It's linear.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at the stack of news from this week, we're talking January 26th through February 2nd. That whole rhythm, it didn't just change. I mean, it feels like it effectively died.
It really feels like a structural break, doesn't it? We are not just looking at another update week. This feels like the week OpenAI decided to stop building chatbots and start building a digital workforce.
A agentic pivot.
That's the term, exactly. We're moving from chatting with intelligence to managing intelligence. And I mean, the evidence is just everywhere in this stack. You've got the launch of the Codex app, which is it's less like a chatbot and more like a command center. You've got this $200 million partnership with Snowflake that completely changes where AI lives in an enterprise.
And they're using it themselves, right?
And they are eating their own dog food with internal tools that are, frankly, just staggering in scale.
But it's not all, smooth sailing. Amidst all this operationalizing, there's some serious friction here.
Yeah.
We're seeing legacy models people actually loved being, well, forcibly retired.
Yeah, that caused a stir.
And we have reports of the newest, shiniest models kind of degrading in performance. And then you have Senator Elizabeth Warren asking some extremely uncomfortable questions about the trillions of dollars supposedly back in this whole thing.
It's a collision. It's the messy reality of business hitting that, idealized future of technology.
So I think our mission for this deep dive is to figure out, does this shift to agents actually save us time? Or are we just entering an era of managing software middle managers?
And are we losing something in the process?
Exactly. With the death of GPT-4o, are we losing the soul of the machine in exchange for, I don't know, efficiency?
That is the big question.
Okay, let's start with the research and the tools, because there was a massive release aimed at the academic crowd. On January 27th, OpenAI launched Prism.
Right. And to really get Prism, you have to think about who they're targeting. For a long time, right, scientists, researchers, they've been using ChatGPT, but it's been clunky.
Super plunky.
You paste in some text, ask for a summary, maybe try to format a citation. Prism is different. It's a dedicated AI-native workspace built just for scientific writing. It's running on GPT 5.2, but the interface is the real story here.
And it's built on that Crixit platform they acquired, right?
Yep, the one they acquired pretty quietly a while back.
I looked at the demo for this, and honestly, it gave me flashbacks. Anyone who's ever tried to write a technical paper knows the absolute nightmare that is LaTeX.
The typesetting system that looks like a wall of code.
Yes, you miss one little bracket,
Yeah.
and your entire document just fails to compile. It is the absolute bane of academic existence.
Well, Prism pretty much tries to make that obsolete. It's handling all the LaTeX generation in the background. It manages your citations. It even hooks directly into ArcSiv for literature searches. But the one feature that really signals the shift is the whiteboard to LaTeX conversion.
Okay, how does that work in practice?
So imagine you're a physicist. You're brainstorming, you're scribbling a really complex formula on a whiteboard or, an iPad. It's messy, it's handwritten.
The old way, that's 20 minutes of just transcribing.
At least. With Prism, you just snap a photo, upload it, and the model translates it into perfectly formatted, compile-ready LaTeX code.
It just removes so much grunt work. But is it just a nice to have, or is there a bigger strategy play here?
Oh, it's a massive strategy play. Think about where scientific knowledge is actually created right now. It's in tools like Overleaf or Word. OpenAI doesn't want to just be the tool you ask for help anymore.
They want to be the room where it happens.
Exactly. They want to be the environment where that knowledge is born. They're betting that 2026 will be for science what 2025 was for software development. They want to own the interface of creation.
But here's the thing that bugs me. While they're rolling out this red carpet for scientists, well, they're kind of kicking casual users to the curb. On January 29th, they announced the retirement of the legacy models.
Effective February 13th. So goodbye to GPT-4o, GPT 4.1, 4.1 mini, the whole family.
They're just clearing the deck completely.
Their rationale is data-driven. I mean, they claim only 0.1% of daily users are still manually selecting GPT-4o, so they want to consolidate everyone onto the GPT 5.2 and 5.3 lineages. From an engineering standpoint, it makes sense. Maintaining those old models is expensive.
But wait a minute, I've been all over the forums, and that 0.1% is incredibly vocal. There was a genuine, emotional connection to GPT-4o. People felt it had a certain warmth, a personality that these new hyper-optimized models just don't have.
You're touching on a really interesting tension. It's this conflict between competence and connection. The newer models like GPT 5.2, they're optimized for reasoning, for code, for complex instructions. And in doing that, they often become more sterile, more robotic.
It feels like talking to a bureaucrat instead of a creative partner.
And OpenAI knows this. In fact, just a few days before the retirement announcement on January 22nd, they pushed what they called a personality system prompt update. They were explicitly trying to inject some of that conversational warmth back into 5.2.
So it's an admission.
It's almost an admission that they optimized the humanity right out of the model, and now they're trying to patch it back in.
But it's not just about feelings, right? There seem to be actual utility issues. I saw a thread from February 2nd about GPT 5.2 X high. Users are claiming it's actually getting dumber.
X high is their top reasoning tier. And yeah, the reports are concerning. Power users are documenting degradation. We're talking simple mistakes, logic loops. And there's this really bizarre detail where the model started referring to itself as GPT 5.2 Codex in its chain of thought process.
GPT 5.2 Codex. What does that even mean?
It suggests a routing error or maybe a training bleed. Codex is the engine behind their coding tools. So if the general chat model suddenly thinks it's the coding model,
It implies they're over-optimizing for code at the expense of everything else.
it's very possible. It shows these models aren't just magically getting better at everything all at once. It's more like a game of whack-a-mole. You optimize for one metric and another one drops.
Which brings us to the reason why they are so focused on code. The biggest story of the week, maybe the year so far, the Codex app for macOS.
Launched February 2nd. And this is the physical manifestation of that agentic pivot we were just talking about.
The headline I keep seeing everywhere is the end of chat.
And, for developers, it really might be. Up until this week, if you used AI to code, it was a synchronous loop, right? You copy code, paste it into the chat, ask for a fix, wait.
You're the bottleneck.
You are the bottleneck. The Codex app flips this to what they're calling asynchronous orchestration.
Okay, asynchronous orchestration. That sounds like the worst kind of corporate buzzword. Break that down for me. What does that actually look like for a developer sitting at their desk?
It means you are not talking to one bot. You are managing a team. You might have one agent, Agent A, refactoring a messy piece of code in the background. At the same time, Agent B is writing unit tests for a completely different feature. Agent C is updating the documentation. They're all working in parallel.
So I'm not typing code anymore. I'm looking at a dashboard, watching progress bars.
You're a project manager for AIs, and the technical thing that makes this possible is something called isolated work trees. This is crucial.
Why is that so important?
Because if you have 3 interns all trying to rewrite the same file at once, you get total chaos. Merge conflicts. Isolated work trees means each agent gets its own sandbox copy of the code base. They do their work, they break things, they fix them, and only when they're done do they present you with a clean diff, a summary of the changes.
So they don't touch my main code until I sign off on it.
Precisely. You become a reviewer of pull requests generated by AI.
They also introduced this thing called skills. Is this just a fancy word for a prompt?
It's a bit more robust than that. Think of a skill as a reusable, bundled workflow. So instead of typing, please write a unit test using PyTest and follow our style guide every single time.
You just package it up?
You package those instructions into a unit test skill, then you just point the agent at a file, click the skill, and walk away.
That sounds incredibly powerful, but
Yeah.
does it actually work? Because I'm seeing some grumbling about the hardware requirements.
Yes. The reality check. There's a GitHub issue number 10432 that blew up on launch day. Users on M1 Pro MacBooks are reporting the Codex app is just chewing through their GPU. We're talking 70 to 90% usage.
Wait, what? Why? Isn't all the AI thinking happening in the cloud? Why is my laptop melting?
That's the catch. The reasoning, the heavy-duty thinking that's in the cloud, but the orchestration managing those work trees, diffing the files in real time, rendering that whole interface, that's all happening locally. And it turns out that managing a team of digital workers is very computationally expensive for your own machine.
So we're trading brain power for battery life.
It's a good reminder that software is still software. It's not magic.
Speaking of scale, OpenAI isn't just selling this idea, they're living it. They pulled back the curtain on their internal tool, Kepler, on January 29th.
This is the ultimate dogfooding. Kepler is their internal data agent, and it manages 600 petabytes of data across 70,000 data sets for their 3,500 employees.
600 petabytes. I honestly cannot even conceptualize that number.
It's an absurd amount of information, but the really interesting part isn't the size, it's the protocol. They revealed Kepler uses the Model Context Protocol, or MCP,
And that matters because
because it's an open standard for connecting models to data. By admitting they use this internally at that insane scale, they are basically telling the enterprise world, look, this isn't a toy. We run our entire company on this architecture.
it's a proof of concept for the Fortune 500.
Exactly. They're trying to normalize the idea of an agent having access to everything.
And that scares me. Let's be honest. We're talking about agents running on our desktops, agents digging through petabytes of data. This just raises a massive red flag. Safety. If I tell my agent to go research this and it clicks a link, what's stopping it from clicking something malicious?
You have just hit on the biggest security nightmare for agents. SSRF, server-side request forgery.
In plain English, please.
Okay, so if an agent has access to the web in your internal network, a hacker could set up a honeypot website. When your agent visits to read an article, that website could secretly tell the agent to start poking around your internal servers, downloading files. The agent basically becomes a sleeper cell inside your firewall.
That is terrifying. So have they fixed it?
Well, on January 28th, they published a paper on agent link safety. They claim to have built a solution,
Which is?
an independent web index. Before an agent clicks any link, it checks this index. If the URL is verified as public and safe, it clicks it quietly. But if the URL is unknown or looks internal or is suspicious...
It has to stop and ask the human.
Exactly. The human has to manually approve it.
Okay, that sounds good in theory. But come on, a web index. The internet changes every millisecond. If I spin up a malicious site right now, how does their index know it's bad?
And that is the vulnerability. A static index, even a frequently updated one, can never be 100% perfect against zero-day threats. It's a security perimeter, but it's not an unbreakable wall.
It's a constant race.
It's a race they can't afford to lose. It's the cost of doing business with agents. If you want them to be useful, they need access. If they have access, they are a vector.
Okay, let's zoom out from the tech to the politics. Because OpenAI is playing this really interesting game of good cop, bad cop. Over in Europe, they are charming everyone.
They released the EU Economic Blueprint 2.0 on January 28th. And it's a very diplomatically worded document.
Sounds like they're trying to be the teacher's pet.
They're addressing what they call Europe's AI capability overhang. They're partnering with Booking.com to train 20,000 small businesses. They launched a €500,000 grant for youth research. They're positioning themselves not as a tech giant to be regulated.
Right, as an essential partner for growth.
Exactly. Don't regulate us. We're helping you. But while they're shaking hands in Brussels, they are getting a very, very cold shoulder in Washington. Senator Elizabeth Warren sent a letter to Sam Altman on the 28th, and she did not mince words.
I read this letter. It was brutal. She pointed out a discrepancy that it made my jaw drop. She cited $1.4 trillion in projected spending commitments.
Billion with a T.
Versus $13.5 billion in losses for just the first half of 2025.
The numbers are just staggering.
$1.4 trillion, that's the GDP of a G7 country.
It is, and her argument is all about risk. She framed it as privatizing profits while seeking ways to let the public defray the costs.
But hold on, let me just play devil's advocate for a second.
Zipper.
I mean, Uber lost money for a decade. Amazon didn't turn a profit for years and years. Isn't this just the standard Silicon Valley playbook? Burn cash to build the moat. Why is she targeting OpenAI?
Because Uber wasn't asking to revamp the entire U.S. energy grid. Uber wasn't projecting spending that rivals the defense budget. Warren's point is that if OpenAI's bet fails, if this $1.4 trillion infrastructure is built and the revenue doesn't show up, who is left holding the bag?
The taxpayer.
It's likely the taxpayer or the ratepayer for the energy utilities. It's the scale of the potential failure that has her worried. If a startup goes bust, investors lose money. If this AI infrastructure busts, it could destabilize whole markets.
Okay, speaking of money, let's talk about how they plan to actually earn some of it back. Partnerships. There was one monster deal this week. Snowflake.
February 2nd, a multi-year partnership worth $200 million.
And the headline is that OpenAI models GPT-5.2 are now natively integrated into Snowflake Cortex AI.
This solves a massive problem called data gravity.
I love that term. Unpack your for it.
Okay, imagine you're a massive global bank. You have Petabytes of transaction data, customer records, all of that sits in Snowflake. That data is heavy. You can't just upload it to ChatGPT. It's too big to move and way too sensitive to leave your secure environment.
So the gravity of the data keeps it stuck in the warehouse.
Correct. So OpenAI has to go to the mountain. This partnership brings the model to the data. The AI runs inside Snowflake's security perimeter.
This sounds like a win-win. OpenAI gets enterprise customers, Snowflake gets better AI.
It is a win-win, but there is a hidden danger here for OpenAI. You have to notice what Snowflake is doing. They signed a nearly identical $200 million deal with Anthropic just a few months ago.
They're playing the field.
They're acting as an arms dealer. Snowflake doesn't really care if you use GPT 5.2 or if you use Claude. They just want you to use their data platform, and this commoditizes the models. If Snowflake becomes the main interface, OpenAI loses that direct customer relationship. They just become a vendor in a drop-down menu.
That's a precarious position to be in. You want to be the platform, not just the plugin.
Exactly, and we're seeing this trend elsewhere, too. Look at PVH Corp., the parent company of Calvin Klein and Tommy Hilfiger.
They announced on January 27th.
They're deploying ChatGPT Enterprise for trend analysis and supply chain optimization.
Which is interesting because fashion is usually, well, it's gut instinct, it's art.
Yeah.
Using AI to predict the next trend feels like a really big cultural shift.
It signals that we're moving past the experimental phase. When a legacy industry like fashion starts trusting agents to optimize their supply chain, it means the tech has matured.
Yeah.
It's no longer just a novelty. It's becoming infrastructure.
So let's try to synthesize all of this. It feels like we are at a tipping point. We've gone from just chatting with a bot to hiring a fleet of agents with the Codex app. We're integrating them into our data warehouses with Snowflake. We're giving them tools to write our science with Prism.
The theme is clear: asynchronous orchestration.
There's that phrase again. But seriously, what does that mean for the human in the loop?
It means a fundamental shift in our identity as workers. I mean, for the last few years, the human was the doer. You typed the prompt, you checked the output, you iterated, you were the artist holding the brush.
And now?
Now, with these tools, the human is moving to the manager role. You assign a task to a fleet of agents, you walk away, they work in their sandboxes, you come back and you review a diff. You aren't writing, you're approving.
So it's a promotion.
Yeah.
Or is it a displacement?
That is the tension, isn't it? We are moving from AI as a tool to AI as labor. And being a middle manager requires a completely different skill set than being a creator. It requires patience, oversight, and honestly, it requires a lot of trust in the machine to do the job.
And that leads to a final thought I want to leave everyone with. As we look at that Codex app running in the background, making our laptops scream as it manages our digital interns, how do we even measure productivity when we aren't the ones doing the typing anymore? If I spend my whole day just saying approved or rejected to an agent's code, am I still a developer? Or am I just training my replacement?
That's the billion-dollar question, and I don't think we have the answer yet.
Something to mull over. Thanks for diving deep with us.
See you next time.